Hi again, and welcome to Truth Addicts. It's myself, Dina and Joanna again, and I've asked them if they would be so kind as to chat with me about something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, which is we've talked quite a bit about qualities here on Truth Addicts, and what I realize is we haven't really opened up so much about what they do. I mean, we've said they're great and think about them and try them out, but I think that we could really open up how they work, why it's important, how you would think about using them, just the really practical bits. And so just to share one small story about it, when I first came on the idea about actually choosing the energy that you process, I was taught that the color red is actually part of one of your working systems and of your soul. So that seems like something we could talk about another time. But so I came to understand that the color red has to do with cleanliness. It has to do with discipline. It has to do with refinement. And it has a very Mars influence as well, which actually goes also with those things like precision. And so one day I was at the laundromat, and one thing about me is that I'm an artist and I'm more about the flow of things than I am about the precision of things. But I decided that I wanted to try to see if I could employ the qualities of discipline, of cleanliness and refinement, and see if I could really get a sense of the feeling of red through employing those qualities. And the way that I was doing it was I was at a laundromat, and to pass the time and kind of keep myself entertained, I was attempting to fold my clothes in a very particular way, using those qualities and seeing if I could have a feeling of it, and if it actually made the clothing get tidier. Just try out the process. And so I was busily doing what I was doing, and all of a sudden this woman shows up next to me, and she's like, I just have to tell you, I have never in my life, this is an older woman, I've never in my life seen anyone fold their clothes as tidily as you are folding your clothes right now. She's like, I'm impressed. I don't even know what to say. And I thought, wow, I didn't even know if I would have realized what that was making a big difference, but somebody outside of the process was able to recognize it and comment about it. So that was inspiring. So I would love to hear anything that Joanna or Dina would want to say about this process of qualities and how to actually employ them.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a great story. And I think it's really important to realize that qualities exist and that they are energies and that they exist independent of us. So there is this quality that has been built throughout the centuries, the years, the history, and anybody who has a quality adds to that quality so that it grows. And so we can connect to those energies, and they exist. And one way that we can do that is to act the part. And I think that's a really important understanding. So for example, I don't know if you've ever heard interviews with people who might have jumped into a burning building to rescue a child, or jumped into the lake to save a drowning person. And the interviewer will say, you're very courageous that you were able to do that. And the answer usually is, no, I just did it. I just responded. And I think that if you respond in with an act that has with it the understanding of that quality, like in a courageous way, then you attract the quality of courage. So it does start living with you. So I remember times of going to an interview, for example, and not being courageous at all, but pretending that I am. And very soon, that quality started to kind of condense and appear. and I felt better for it. So we can deliberately act a certain way to attract that quality. And I think that's one way that we can attract equality, is almost like from the outside in. So for example, if I need courage, to think about courageous people, people I know that have acted in a courageous way, and try and get a little bit of that quality to come and attend me. So a little bit of a story, a little bit similar to what Stephanie has said, is that I had a friend over and she looked into my fridge and she said how everything in my fridge looked really, really good, and that she's got the same things in her fridge, but it doesn't look quite the same. And so we talked about that, and what we realized was that what adds to the food is the value that one has for that food, because that is a quality too. And there's a certain energy, and it radiates from a person to whatever it is that they have. And it's really, I think, important also to value what you have. So I can look around some of the things that I have here, and they've got a story, and there's value with that, and they kind of radiate back to me that value. So qualities are very, very real, and they can really enhance a life. And I think it's a very rewarding journey to set one's foot upon the path of attracting qualities in a deliberate way, because we can do that.
I'm caught by what you're saying about value. And it's funny, when Stephanie told me that this was the topic that she wanted to talk about today, I thought of value, and I thought of how value is connected to need. So when the person that runs into a burning building sees the need, they summon what is required because they value the life.
Mm.
And so I don't understand everything about that, but I know the value and the need go together. And years ago now, maybe 5 years ago, when I started teaching music, giving private lessons, I was struggling with confidence. And I spoke to Stephanie about it. And she said, well, she said things I won't tell you, but she also said, well, bring your friends with you. Bring your care. Bring your honor to music. Bring your integrity. Bring your confidence. She said, know who you're going to bring. Bring your entourage. And I had that need. I had the need because I wanted to give good music lessons, and I wanted people to be able to find what they wanted from me. It's more than just about, I also wanted to be paid, but I wanted to offer them what they wanted. They wanted to be with music. They want to be with music. So I had a real need, you know? And I thought, yeah, these things go together.
And music is also something that you can, quote unquote, be with. I know we're talking about qualities specifically, but I think it starts to broaden, the topic broadens a bit, because I think one of the things to put in here is the fact that the human is an energy processing machine. And there's so many different ways in which we're actually designed, both physically, and the more you start to come to understand about our electrical systems, our aura, and how we process energies, I mean, that's the whole reason for the design, is the processing of energies. And music is also something that you can process. And I also would say that it wasn't just that you wanted to give good music. Knowing you, Dina, I know that you also wanted to give not just what someone would want, but what they would need. like to give them a bit of love and value for music. Because music itself can be a healing tool, it can be a tool of connection, it can be a tool of enlightenment. I mean, there's so many ways in which the energy of music can really affect humanity. So I hope I didn't just sort of take us off on another spin, but just the idea and the understanding that really everything is energy and we're processing it, whether we like it or not. Because just as, you know, there's a lot of good ideas and reasons why to really stick to the most sort of, I don't want to say potently energizing, because that's true. Like the more you're with qualities, the more you're with things that are potently energizing. But it's also an opportunity to sort of to solidify very good things in your life. Like, I mean, the best way to become and to guarantee my behavior to myself and to others is by drawing in these qualities, by processing them as much as possible. Because then when I get into a situation where I find it would be easy to be irritated, it would be easy to feel like I was less than for whatever reason. The fact that I have this arsenal of qualities that I've worked hard to process, that I kind of, not only do I know their name, I know how they feel. I know why they're important, and I can call on them in those moments. And then all of a sudden, when you get that sort of niggling that you're going to get irritated, or that you'd really like to go and hide in the corner because you're not sure that you can handle it, and you think, wait a minute, I can just draw up some courage. I can draw up some understanding for others, and the realization that all of us human beings down here are much more alike than we are different, which that's part of the beauty of the quality of understanding, is that it causes you to feel compassion. And how amazing is that, to be able to spin into compassion when you're just about to spin into jealousy or gain and loss or irritation?
I'm seeing from what you're saying that it's an opportunity to serve. And I'm remembering how things work. Like, as one processes care, one feeds care and makes care stronger in the world. It's a two-way system, you know? Care energizes you, and you energize care.
Right.
So there's more care in the world for other people to find as well. Makes me think of that turn of phrase, you are what you eat. You are what you process.
I once, there was a friend of mine, and we were having dinner, and there was, I don't know, it was after a meeting or something, and there was maybe 6-8 people. And at the end of the meal, unexpectedly, he paid for everybody. And I said to him, I said, well, that's very generous of you. And he says, no, I realize I'm not generous at all, but I'm trying to learn to be more generous. And that's why I did that. And I thought, wow, he's taken steps to really almost like woo the quality of generosity. And one can do that. It doesn't have to be in such a big way. It can be like leaving $1 here or even 10 cents on a wall somewhere for somebody to find, but just trying to bring into one's life qualities really enriches one's life, whether it's generosity or forgiveness or love or care. There's so many. I've tried to write down as many as I could think of, and there's no end. I've got pages and pages of qualities, and I keep thinking of more. and you know, like take integrity or peace or patience. They're all unique. They all have a certain sense about them, and maybe a color as well, and an energy. And there's so many, and we can bring them into our lives, and we can have as many as we want. And they're free. Isn't that wonderful? Absolutely free. So the best things in life are free. It's so true.
So how can I ask you guys, I'll put myself on the spot, and then I'll ask if you guys are willing as well. Will you talk about what are your big qualities? Like, I have qualities that I use more than others.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just say a few of the things that I use, and I'd be really curious to hear what are your like big five. We'll call it, what are our big five?
Okay.
Everybody's different, and there's no right or wrong way. For me, the place that I'm at right now is I'm always trying to take myself away from responding from fear. And so one of the biggest things that I'm constantly going to is trust. And again, this is a journey, because I can say to you that I can trust things because I've taken it on and I've tried it out. And I know that that would be a little bit scary for someone to hear, that you can just, put things down and trust. But I can say that after having done it many, many times, you actually can. So, sorry if that sounds scary, but if you take it on and try and realize that, the universe actually is there to help you, and that things really do want to work on your behalf. And when you open yourself up to good things, you'll find that there's so many good things there just wanting to be a part, and that people will come along to represent that. Situations will come along to represent that. So for me, trust is huge. Trusting myself, trusting good things in the world, trusting people. And it's something that I really have to very consciously do, so that to make sure that I'm not responding from fear. The second thing I really, really tried to champion, because I don't have it naturally, is cleanliness. I really have to, I didn't come from a family where I was taught to do things in a regular tidy way. So as an adult, I've really come to understand and value cleanliness, because it provides the most incredible opportunity. And when things are clean, it's like everything is possible. There's no limit to what I can get up to in my house when it's clean. But when there's stuff around, or there's mess around, it limits the possibility, because first I have to clean things or move things. And even at a glance, it'll stop me from doing whatever it is that I really want to do. So I really have tried to have a love affair with it, because I don't want it to come across hard. Not that I think there's anything wrong with discipline for discipline's sake, which would be my third one for sure, is how to have discipline for discipline's sake. But for cleanliness, I've really kind of had to have a love affair with it, like just as a simple value for how it puts opportunity in my life. So then, yes, 3 would be just get up and do whatever needs to be done, no matter what, because it needs to be done. Discipline. That's a constant thing that I really have to consciously bring in. So that would be 3. 4 would be understanding, because I find that under the mantle of understanding, there's so much intelligence. Like when you want to be with the quality of understanding, it's the complete antithesis to judgment or to limiting your thoughts. It's you being open to the intelligence or the cause or the reason for why people are doing what they're doing, why something exists, how things are playing out in front of you, and to just be open to what the message is inside of that. And it has served me so well. It's brought about compassion. It has brought about sometimes genius even. I can't say enough about it. Okay, moving on. 5. As much as I think this is gonna sound cheesy, it's true. I really do go for unconditional love as much as I can. And not just to people, but to everything. From even my government that at the moment is upsetting me. I want there to be, and I guess this kind of goes with understanding, like I want there to be unconditional love for things. I want there to be the idea that at any given moment, something or someone is doing the very best that it can. And I don't want to be against it. I want to be with it. I want to give it my love, my support, my understanding, so that I'm in a position at any time to add something good into the mix. Because if I'm not in that unconditional love, then I'm somewhere else which is against things instead of for things. So those would be my big 5. Can't wait to hear you guys.
I'll start. You know, now when I think of the enacting of the qualities, I'm not sure if I have their exact names right. But I think humanity, if that is a quality. There was a time when I walked into a coffee shop and there was a dirty homeless man ordering some coffee and waiting for it. And I had ordered some food I was waiting for, and we were both standing at the counter. I'm sensitive to energies, so it was very uncomfortable standing next to him because he'd been living in the street. And his aura was full of the street, of living in the street. But for some reason I said, I wanted to recoil actually, and move away. But I decided not to. I decided I'm not going to recoil from this human being because for whatever reason he has to live in the street. Even though part of me is repulsed, I don't want him to feel that. I didn't speak to him. He got his coffee. He looked me in the eye and said, "Thank you."
Mm.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
Yes.
And then I mean, this was years ago, but that's when I knew we were up to something. That's when I started believing, you know what, I think we're up to something, because I didn't speak to him. And he looked me in the eye and said, "Thank you." So something to do with humanity and kindness. And willingness to share the good. And trust. And playfulness.
Mm-hmm.
And being gentle. I think my strength comes from being gentle, but also being able to be firm. Somehow they go together.
Yay, thank you.
Yeah, this is not easy, actually. It's funny. I remember once I was working with a team, and at the end of the tasking that we were doing, I sat them down and I said, "What qualities do you bring to this team?" And I know they struggled, and they all came up with something. And we had a great it really helped, I think, in our working together. And so looking at these qualities, I would say that they're all work in progress, and it's not finished. And this is what I've come up with today. Tomorrow might be something different. I really don't know. There's so many of them, you know, and some days I struggle with one of them, and another day I'm with another one. So, so the ones I've come up with are more to do with trying to be aware of the energy worlds, and be and have a rapport with them, and work with them and invite them into my life. So things like loyalty and honesty, because I think the unseen worlds and the energies and qualities will respond to someone who's constant. That's another one. And trying not to be like one day one way and then the next day another way, because if there are qualities that live with me, they want me to be constant because they've come to me because of certain qualities. And if I suddenly am acting out of character, then they might leave me, and I wouldn't want that. So, so that's where loyalty, honesty, and constancy come in, and also patience, because at the moment I'm helping an older lady who really is in her 90s, and she's a Holocaust survivor, and she doesn't have short-term memory, so she asks you the same question over and over and over again. And that is such a great opportunity to practice patience, so that you don't go, well, I've told you that already. But rather than doing that, to actually every time respond as if she's asking the first time, because she doesn't remember that she has already asked you that question. And so practicing patience definitely has been happening in my life. And the final one is what I talked about at the beginning, which is having value for things that share my life, whether it's people or whether it's objects, but to actually have things around me that I do value and that I appreciate. So appreciation might be another word for it, because I think we've been given this incredible gift of having a life, and to appreciate that. And so far I've survived all these years, and it's been a tremendous journey, and it's still going on. So I think appreciation kind of lifts the level of a life, because one has gratitude for every day. As you wake up in the morning, you put your feet on the floor and be glad that you can stand up and go about your day. It just makes everything better.
That's great. Wow. It's so good to hear. I mean, clearly I know that you're both very special individuals, because
Yeah.
I love to talk to you, but it's just good to hear sort of the specifics, because we're all different.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering, is there anything else that we could mention about, for example, the fact that the human is an energy processing machine, or anything else about, you know, what it is to process these qualities? One thing I will add, actually, sorry, I just sort of got an answer to my own question, is that the other real benefit that I found to starting with processing qualities is that anyone who's trying to really start to see and feel the unseen world, because the qualities are such a more vibrant energy, it's much easier to start to get a sense of an atmosphere. Or there's just, how can I say this better? Like Joanna mentioned it earlier, like they have a color, they have a vibration. And they really do energize you. I'm trying to think of a actual exercise of how, I mean, both Dina and I sort of mentioned that other people will recognize it and mention it to you. But I can't really think of like an exercise where you could, like, you know, we've definitely done that thing where you can paint, or you can get some colored cards or colored paper and blindfold yourself and practice just feeling how that color feels with your hand, putting it on your cheek, putting it on your forearm, which is also sensitive. And you can really feel the difference of the radiation in the colors. What do you think if you wrote on a piece of paper the qualities?
I've never tried it, but I'd like to try it.
I'd like to try that too. I
Right.
just thought of it. Have
Well,
you done it, Joanna?
Yeah, well, you know, the messages from water where the water changes quality, changes its kind of taste and smell and crystalline structure depending on the quality that you put into it. So you could take glasses or bottles of water and put a label on it with that quality and try and put the quality into the water and then taste it and see what difference it makes, if any. I think that would be an interesting one. Another exercise that I've recommended before is that you can imagine that you have a wardrobe full of qualities, and in the morning as you get up, you decide which quality you're going to practice that day, and just put it on like a cloak, or take it with you wherever you go and that day, and see if that causes people to respond differently. Like in Dina's story, somebody might actually be sensitive enough to recognize that something's going on with you.
That's great. That's great.
I will give a warning. Sometimes when you take on a big quality, for example, I was like, forbearance. I'm going to have forbearance. The next day at 8 o'clock in the morning, someone gave me a reason to have forbearance.
It's true. It is so true.
Just a little warning.
Yeah.
And it's still well worth it.
It is
well worth it.
It is so well worth it. And it is true that it's so real.
That's right.
But I truly believe, like, all these little things, like, this is the way that we change the world. You know, it's one process at a time, one attempt at a time, one step at a time. And if we had, you know, a growing number of people who just wanted to be the champions of care or humanity, it would absolutely, beyond the shadow of a doubt, make a tremendous change in the world. And it's such a simple thing that there's no reason why, there's nothing preventing anyone from doing it, really. I like to call that over to myself, that there is absolutely no one stopping me but myself where this type of work, where this journey is concerned. Because that, you know, there's that famous book, Pilgrim's Progress. I'm not really sure how this fits, but to me it does. Where they, you know, it's a very, very old book, but I think it's somewhat famous in that, you know, they put him in a tiny solitary confinement cell. And he chose to process this incredible journey. In anyone else, they could have just rolled over and felt sorry for themselves. But instead, he decided to process this incredible journey. And when he got out, he wrote it down. But there's so many examples. And I know there have been some movies recently out about this very thing where, you know, you are the champion and the architect of your process. It's the one thing you have that no one can take away from you. And there's such a gift in it. that really truly at any given moment you can be exactly who and what you want to be. Now, does that take practice? Yes, because is it really easy to get mad at someone when they do something, you know, spiteful or unconsciously hurtful, or we know how easy it is to get angry or frustrated. But with just a very little amount of practice, you really can be exactly the person that you want to be, which that's such a gift.
I'm glad you listened. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to contact us at thetruthAddicts@gmail.com. Bye for now.